Hola, Animigos, and welcome to Keyframers, the animated collaborative coding live stream where we bring imaginative user interfaces to life. I'm your host, Stephen Shaw.
And I'm your host, David Khourshid.
Together, we are coding compadres, animation amigos, Boolean buddies, and keyframe companions.
Yeah, we're going to be creating an animation as always from scratch live using HTML, CSS, and maybe a little bit of JavaScript.
Yeah, some JavaScript this time, for sure.
All right. Well, as always, we're happy to answer any questions you may have, so please reach out in the chat or comments or Twitter or Polywork. Actually, no, you can't message. Have you heard of Polywork? It's a new...
Yeah. I stumbled across that on Good Morning America.
This is not a paid advertisement. I just started using it, and I'm like, oh, wow, this is a great alternative to LinkedIn. So...
Yeah, it looks like a pretty cool setup. Well, yeah, I guess we can take a look kind of at what we're trying to tackle today. So this is an animation called Sarah Guo. I don't know how to pronounce the last name, by Leonard here on Dribble. This is there's a lot going on in this that's really cool. A lot that I like to see in an animated site, but we're kind of focused on this cursor here, seeing how that interaction can be built. So we'll do some CSS variables most likely. There's the more interesting bit. So we've done CSS tracking before, like with this iOS cursor highlight animation that we did. We got a link in the description. But this is a really cool one. Whenever you hover over it, it kind of parallax affects the button. So we're doing that, but the interesting bit here is the way that it kind of tracks like what you're hovering over, like that future of work bit there was really cool. And then there's just kind of these different states. There's like a I don't know what you a collapsed state or like a smaller state, and then like an expanded state. And so that's kind of what we'll look at doing. The text rotation bit might be a little outside of the scope for this one, but we'll see how time progresses here. Yeah, we've got just the tiniest bit of setup here, just trying to get a little bit of a gradient background in there, but nothing too fancy. That should definitely be radial gradients and nicer nicer colors. But overall, that'll give us a playground to work with. Let's say overflow here. Well, at least overflow X hidden there. Body, min height, percent, and be good there. MD in the chat. How can I learn what you guys do? Well, this is the way to do it. We're dropping some knowledge each show. Okay, so I'm going to open this video in a new tab. Now, David, do you remember Reticool?
I do, yeah, from a few years back, I believe, right?
More than
really
more than a few years back, yeah. This was an old attempt that I did at this kind of effect, and it's using some CSS variables. It's using kind of mouse tracking events and like velocity calculations and like all that angle calculations and all that kind of stuff. We're going to focus it in a little bit more, but some of the same concepts kind of apply, like when you're hovering things and the way that it moves around and all that. We'll kind of pull some bits from. I definitely think you should check that out. Joseph Rexme helped make that into an actual like GitHub package, an installable package. So it's worth checking that out, giving that a star, and you can easily drop in this kind of effect. But we're going to do one from scratch here to kind of show how to do it. While I get started on the cursor tracking, when you get a moment, would you just drop some stuff in the UI, kind of based on that original bit?
That's what I'm planning on doing.
Okay, cool.
So.
And then we'll figure out the interactions there. Daily Meow's back with us. Glad to have you. So
right now I'm spending way too much time on this gradient thing in the background.
Yeah, I know it's a super cool gradient. I love the animation of it in the actual.
Yeah, it's just so
video.
subtle, and
yeah.
so I'm trying to do like something else subtle, but yeah, whatever.
Okay, so let's see. So, doing CSS in the HTML here. Let's say dot cursor. We'll do that for now, and we'll say cursor outer and cursor inner. Just do those two things for now, and this is going to be the basics of our cursor tracking element. So let's go ahead and give those a little bit of style here. So we'll say cursor position absolute. Actually, position fixed, I think, is what we'll end up needing. Top left 0, and then yeah, let's do font size to rem.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna put everything in the app. Let's see, should I do this?
Yeah, that's fine.
Above you or below you? We'll do it below.
Wherever.
There we go. Background white, even though it should be that cool gradient background. But let's see, width, height seems like 70 VH, and that should be smack in the center, which it's not.
Wow.
So
yeah, I don't have any centering stuff on the body yet, so feel free to get that. Good template.
Yes, I'm practicing my place item center. So I was trying to figure out for the longest time why my place item center wasn't working, like that magical technique that everyone was talking about, or at least a few people were talking about, and it's display grid, not display flex for that.
Yeah. Flex is only kind of that one axis. It'll get a little screwy if not. Okay, so let's do let's see, let's set the color here. What kind of color is it? Because it's got an inversion effect happening. So like a blend mode. Right, a mixed blend mode.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what the base color is there. We can, for now, just say color black, and then that might help. So for the cursor outer here, we'll say border solid 2 pix bar color. And then for the cursor inner, we'll say the background will be that color. And then, yeah, that's fine. And I'm going to do the same place items center bit there. Nice. Okay, so this is currently the cursor in the top left there. Let's do border radius 50%. And 50% here. So that gives us our nice round cursor. And then
these always have super unique layouts.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to, I feel like the layouts we do in everyday work is boring compared to what they have in Dribble. Trying to find out like how many FRs is that, Whatever. Well, we'll just do.
Yeah, you don't have to get too wild with it. Recreate like one section from it, and we'll do some stuff with that. Okay, so I'm getting our cursor here in the JavaScript. Text cover. Let's see, daily meow. The text hover looks cool. Maybe before content scale %. Sure, which part of the animation? Like the fade in kind of effect. So yeah, we've got our cursor here, and let's do update function. Let's say on move, because we want it to link it to a mouse move event. So we'll say on move and get say document.add event listener. Let's move. And we'll say console.log .client x e.client y. Should be here. Token. Okay, there we go. Just needed to clear the console. Console.clear. And that'll help us out here. So with mouse events, two of the properties on like the event data that comes back is client X and client Y, and that's the position of the mouse in the current viewport. That accounts for scroll and everything like that. Like it's based on the viewport. It's not kind of like relative to the page. There's a separate e.pageX and e.pagey for those. But in this instance, since we've got a fixed position cursor that we want regardless of scroll, we'll do that. So what we can do right now. Are you using blink a marquee tag again? Oh, you sure
You know
are.
what? It is doing a marquee in the animation, so I am adding a marquee.
It's coming back.
Yes. It is 100% doing a marquee in the animation, so I feel justified in adding that.
All right, so let's say x e.client x, and then we'll say as client y, and then we'll use these properties to position our cursor. So we're just setting these CSS variables here, and then on our cursor in the CSS, we've already got it position fixed top left. So let's say transform, translate, and we'll have to do a couple of calcs here. So we'll say calc bar dash x plus times 1 pixel, because this is a unitless value coming in right now. And we'll do the same with y. And then that, let's set a z index, get it above everything. Take that off for now. And we already have it tracking our cursor. That's it. We're done. Well, you can see that it's kind of offset from the actual cursor. So what we can do there is add an additional translate. 50%, negative 50%, because you can stack these transform functions so that it's actually centered where the mouse cursor is. That's cool. Let's see if we can do a mix blend mode. I always forget the values for that because it's different from difference is probably what we want. It's always different from like the Photoshop blend modes and the it's not working on that, and like the canvas blend modes. Let's see, exclusion, probably what we want. Let's see, nope, not working over the white. Let's see if we convert it. Do it. Kind of. Yeah. It's kind of got it. Exclusion. Let's see if we can do difference. That helps it all. Difference and exclusion seem to be pretty close, but we'll leave that for now. Oh no, it kind of disappears over the white, so we do need.
Oh, that's cool. It's the first time I'm noticing the cursor. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, it works surprisingly well here. Yeah, if we gave it an actual color, it might work well too. Just give it, yeah, something like that can really help. I'm gonna bump the size up a little bit. You could use viewport units or something like that for this as well. But yeah, this is relatively performant. The mixed blend mode is certainly gonna cause some drag here, but overall, all we're doing is adding a few CSS variables and doing that. So yeah, not too shabby. Now let's see. So looking at the original animation, you can see there's kind of a lag between the center and the outside. So when the cursor's moving around, the center seems more closely linked to like what the cursor is actually positioned at, versus the outside, which is kind of delayed.
Yeah, that looks like a lerp to me.
It sure does. It sure does.
If we want to go that direction.
You know, I would like to avoid doing that because of the complexity it adds. But in terms of what we're dealing with, like this is the core of it. But in order to add some more, we're going to need to kind of work from there. Ideally, we could just use CSS transitions, but these CSS variables are getting constantly invalidated and redone, right. So the transition is not going to trigger properly.
All right, well, let's see that for last then.
Well, it's kind of
because I have some ideas for that, like just do it in a really simple way, a lot simpler than we did it last time. So yeah, I have a plan. I promise.
All right. Well, let's add like an element to focus on. So let's say this button here. Just a little button there, and let's see. So there's the two states. There's like a focused, like a shrunken state, and then there's a kind of expanded state. So that's expanded. So we can say like data shrink maybe, and then we can say button data expand, say we can make these different things for now, but just kind of getting an interactive element there that we can look at. So one of the things that we'll do here is in our on move, we can say console.log target, and this should give us the actual element that we're hovering over. And if you notice, right now we're hovering over the cursor, so we're not actually interacting with anything else unless we move fast enough. So the best thing to do there is set pointer events none on that. So that will give us the actual elements that we're hovering over. So you can see I'm hovering over data shrink, hovering over data expanded. So we can now use that information. So we can say if target, well, let's get that out of there. Let's say target equal e.target. If target and target.data, let's see, wrap it in here. If target.data set.shrink, say cursor.style.set property size 0.5. Else if target.dataset.expand L cursor.style.set property size. Well, we can adjust this in a minute. 1.5. Otherwise, let's just set the size to 1. So this is just a CSS variable that we can use to kind of scale this inner element. So let's say transition, transform 0.2 seconds in and out. And we'll say transform scale bar size. Let's see if that works. So by default, our size should be 1. When we hover over data shrink, oh, that's not working. So let's see what we did wrong. Data set. Let's do this a little differently. Let size equal 1, and we'll only adjust this in one place, and we can log that value out. Say size console.log target size n equals 0.5. Size equals 1.5. Okay. So target.dataset.shrink, why not do anything?
All right, so what are you trying to do?
So around line, yeah, so I should have that value. So if it has the data attribute shrink, then it should be setting size to 0.5. Do I need to do target.get attribute data shrink? I'm just not sure why that's not evaluating to a truthy kind of setup. Right, like that should be working, right?
I had to take a look at what the data shrink has attribute is probably what you want. Try that.
Okay. Yeah, there we go. Got it.
Or you could even say target.dataset.shrink.
Right, that's what I had, but for some reason
it didn't work.
That isn't working.
Shrink in. Try that instead. Because that's probably what you want, because it's going to be undefined, but it's going to exist. There we go.
So it's erroring out for me. Let's.
Really?
Yeah. Let me kill the console.log.
Yeah, that works too.
And target.dataset. Oh boy. I think I killed it with the number of logs. Try and refresh here. Coming right back. Hold on. Okay. Yeah, okay. That's working. There we go. All right, so shrink in target.dataset, else if expand in target.dataset.
Yeah, because we're basically checking for existence of that key.
Right.
So it gets a little bit weird there, but I think has attribute is I don't know, it's sort of a mix of, because has attribute is more idiomatic for attributes, but for data properties, data set's more idiomatic.
Right.
So you can't say has data or whatever. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's pretty cool. That's already a nice effect. And I've got just a little bit of a transition on there to snap it kind of back and forth. And then that can be smoother, that can be adjusted, and we can, play with those values, and even, change kind of the effect on the on the outer one as well. But for now, that will do. Okay, let me try changing the color here to make it stand out a little bit more. So hard to know the right kind of colors to use with blend modes. Just depending on what they're over, like it changes so much. For now, blue. Okay. All right. So now let's get into the lerp a little bit.
Okay, and so this is going to be a much more simple implementation. I'm going back like 5-6 years to just the original way that people would do lerp, which is totally a fine approach for creative coding. Like, you wouldn't want to use this in application code, but like for creative coding, this is just a very simple, quick trick to do it. So we have and don't be scared, but we have a global variable, which is this point. And so what we're going to do is we're going to, every time the mouse moves, we're assigning the X and Y to that point. Now, at the same time, there's always going to be an animation loop running that's actually doing the lerping. So that would be, we'll just call it function update. And so in that update, that's where we're setting the, that's where we're setting the CSS variables, but we're setting it to the lerps values. So we're just going to say.
So for right now, it's the same. Well, we would need to call update. So we would do like request animation frame update.
Yeah. So, but let's we have to do a little bit of math here. So the X is, well, we don't want to do that. We want that to be at the end because then you'll never see it. So the X is going to be, we are going to lerp the current value is going to be that, trying to think about how this is going to go. Oh, so this point, that's going to be the target. So I'm just going to say current equals x0, y0. And so the current.x is going to be, we are lerping current.x, hoping to get it to the actual points.x. And then we're going to do the same for y. And then, we set it to current, and then we do our loop. So we request animation frame update over here, and then, we'll just update. So this is going to go in an infinite loop, always changing, and trying to get that current as close as possible to the actual point. So you could see it works. I'm actually really shocked because I'm, I thought like maybe this will not work, but hey, it works.
It seems extremely slow. I don't know if my system's just lagging on some other stuff.
No. That's where we adjust.
Okay, no, now it's good. I was getting some lag.
Okay, so like I changed it to 0.5. See how snappy it is?
Yeah.
For that ratio, and in fact, we could let's just make that a actual parameter, so we could say ratio. And then we could like adjust that.
Yeah, because one thing we'll want to do is actually have like a lagged value to kind of separate. Lord. So what we could do here, is actually, so we can say X, and we can say lag X and lag Y, and what we'll do here is set this to the current point. Mm-hmm. And we'll set this to, there. And then what we can do in cursor outer.
All right, so now it's following it pretty close 1-to-1 because you set it to point.
Right.
And so current is going to be that. All right, so
So what we can do is apply the transform X, lag y, and then apply that here for the regular x and the regular y.
So this can be so cool.
And that should give us valid CSS. Oh geez, why is?
Ooh,
because I have transition on it. So let's remove
so you
that.
get rid of that, you're gonna see some magic happen.
Nice. Yeah. So there we go. So we've got our kind of lagging effect.
Nice.
The scale is kind of instant right now, but we could add that to the point as well. So scale 1, and then use the lerp for all the values there. We can set point.scale equals there. Can we rename that? Whatever. And then we'll say current dot scale. Scale. And another one. Lag scale. Okay. So we can say this as lag scale. And that should give us the right. Yeah, I mean it's fast, but it's fine. Oh, we can actually adjust that because we've got the ratio there. So we can say like 0.1 for the scale to really slow it down. Yeah, that gives a much smoother approach there. Say 2, make that expanded, 1 even bigger.
So today's font is Carla on Google Fonts. It's a pretty nice spaced out font, which is in the original animation. I haven't used it before, but feels pretty nice for this kind of a layout.
Yeah, I like it. Okay, why is our set? Let's do a form here. Translate 50%, and then we don't need to do that in each of those others. We probably could do some values. Let's see. Yeah, that's really nice.
Sweet. Now the question is how to make the cursor a little bit more visible.
Yeah, so that comes down to the mix blend modes. I haven't figured out a good way other than just trying different ones out with different colors. Like color burn is sometimes a good one, and that kind of keeps the blue color, but forces it to blend really well. Let's see. Let's get one of these colors and see if that works. Yeah, because it's all about what like you're over, and how those mix blend modes are gonna react. Like difference here might yeah, like that feels a lot more like the original. I guess it's more of a yellow overall, but it does give a little bit of an inverted effect. Let's see.
Trying to remember how to do the outline effects. Is that just text shadow?
Outline effect for text?
Yes.
So colored transparent, and then there's like a WebKit text stroke property. Oh yeah, so it's WebKit text stroke and WebKit text fill color. So you'll do.
I have a span class of stroke, and that's where I want to do it.
Nice.
So WebKit, what's it called?
WebKit text stroke.
Okay, and I could say like 1 pixel solid black.
Yeah.
And
then WebKit text fill color transparent. And that'll prevent the text from being transparent for everyone. It's only if the browser supports those properties that it'll work.
Cool.
Where did you add that? Because I don't.
You'll see it in the very, very slow marquee that is, you just have to wait till the end.
Looks like it's not working. So I don't think it needs solid in there. I think it's just.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, how do we make marquees faster? I haven't looked this up since I was like a teenager.
Yeah. So we can add actually, data shrink to these as well. And
scroll amounts.
In the chat, is that some sort of dedicated Indian app? It's a little app called Dash app for Mac OS that's quite handy for looking up documentation. Let's see. So I'm gonna do something that is not necessarily recommended. HTML cursor none, and then we'll say data shrink, data expand. We'll want to be cursor pointer. Whoa! Oh, that's a lot.
I needed to see it, and I was getting impatient, so I just sped up. Sorry.
No, that's beautiful. So cursor none is actually going to make us just have our custom cursor displayed. You would, in a real app, probably don't want to do this for accessibility and everything else, but for this demo, it's fine. And then on our data shrink and data expand kind of interactive things, I've added the cursor pointer just to make it even clearer that those are interactive elements. Oh boy. It slows down so much for me at various points.
The marquee or the cursor?
Just the whole thing is lagging for me.
I wonder if it's the marquee's fault.
It's probably a combination of everything. If this were a production site, I wouldn't want to do mixed blend mode. But
the marquee stays.
Yes, the marquee would definitely stay.
Perfect.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, that's the basics of it. I would sure like to get a better color out of it, but I mean that's.
I like the color that you chose. It's very bold, and I don't know how they, how you could get a precise color out of it. I think with mixed blend mode, you're really just guessing, unless you know the exact mathematics of how to get the right color.
Yeah, it's tough. That is tough. Let's see. We've got our lagging outer one. We've got some hover states that we can customize. That's super cool. There's certainly a lot more we could touch with this based on the original, but I think this is a good place to call it. The spinning text there, super cool. Definitely hard to do. I've done some demos like that with splitting, but it is not too simple. That would add another 20 minutes to us. Here. So we'll leave that for another day. Well, cool. Anything else you wanted to touch on with this one?
No, I think we're just about done.
Awesome. Okay. Well, for summarizing, we can probably just do the whole thing in a quick summary, right? I don't think there's anything necessarily to break out unless we wanted to talk about the lerp kind of action separately, but it's all so intertwined.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay. So Okay. So yeah, well, if you're watching this full video or watching live, stick with us. We're going to do a quick summary of this technique. So you'll want to watch because we'll explain things a little bit differently and maybe break it down in a way that will help it make more sense. So yeah, stay with us. We'll be right back. Just 1 second. Hola, and amigos, and welcome to Keyframers. I'm Stephen Shaw.
And I'm David Khourshid.
Let's break down how we accomplish this custom cursor with element interaction animation. So there's a few little bits to this in order to get this all working. The basics of it, it's CSS variables, and it's lerp to help us get some kind of delayed kind of lag effects between the two circles. So first off, we have this cursor element. We've got an outer and an inner element, and those two are what you see. And in our CSS here, there's nothing too wild with those. It's position fixed, and z index over everything. And pointer events none. That's pretty important because it's tracking the cursor, and so technically your cursor is almost always over it, so that'll mess with things like click events and all that. So you want to pointer events none those. And then we have a color set here with a mix blend mode. So the mix blend mode is actually how we get that kind of inverted negative effect. There's a lot of different ways you can play with that and get different sorts of effects, but it's really hard without just playing with specific colors and blend modes to really know what'll work best for your setup. So we have a transform -50%, -50% to get the cursor centered over where the mouse is. And then the outer one's just 1em, 1em, and the inner one is just a little bit smaller to give us the kind of overlapping circles there. And then they're using some CSS variables to actually put them in the proper position. So let's look at the JavaScript a little bit for where these variables are coming from. So we've got our cursor element, and we have an onMove event. So this is mainly what's getting us the information that we need. So the document, anytime the mouse moves on it, we're getting that client X and client Y value, which is the real position of the cursor in the viewport, and we're applying this to our point object. So this is just a way for us to keep track of those values. And then in our update function, which runs every request animation frame, we are lerping those values. So the point is the real value, like this is where the cursor actually is. And then the current is kind of a lagged version of that. It's like a linear easing of sorts. Well, not a linear easing of sorts, but linear interpolation is what we're using for that. So it's kind of a realistic, like physics kind of approach. Will you show us how you're doing that, David?
Yeah, sure. So we have this update function, and what its role is to get this currents value closer to the point value. So the whole concept behind lerp is that you're moving closer and closer to a value, like in a fraction. So if this ratio was 0.5, for instance, then every single time that an animation tick happens, we would be moving halfway closer to the target value. But 0.5 is pretty slow, so we're just going to put it to 0.1, which means it's moving 10% closer to its target on every animation frame, which, as you might know, about 16 or 17 milliseconds. And so in order to do that,
it's inverted from that. The lower the value, the longer it's going to take to get to that new one. The higher it, like if this was just 1, it would be instant. But if we lower that ratio, I'll do it on the main function so you can see the lagged circle, like how long it takes to actually reach that.
Yeah,
that's a good example there. So 0.3 means it's just a little bit behind. It's not super behind, but visually you get that effect.
Yep. Sorry, got those two confused. So yeah, this is happening on every animation frame, and so that's why we have this request animation frame update, which is going to recursively call this function. But the way that request animation frame works is it schedules this function to be executed on the next animation frame. So it's going to not do this infinitely or like infinitesimally, but it's going to do it like every 60 frames per second, hopefully.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we're just setting those to CSS variables and sending them off to CSS land.
Right. So the other aspect of this animation, so with those CSS variables, we have those applied to our outer and inner, so that we can do the kind of offset effect. So they're both individually transformed there. We're using the lagged values on the outer and the real-time values on the inner, so that inner one is always where your cursor is. And the other aspect of it is this scale. So whenever you hover over certain elements, the inner circle scales in or expands out, so shrinking and expanding. The way we accomplish this is we actually have some additional logic in our move listener. So e.target is going to be what the cursor is currently over, what the mouse move event is triggered over. So in our HTML, you can see we've got a few elements with these data shrink and data expand attributes. So whenever you're hovering over those, we check the target, and if it has a data set, and if it shrink, we set that size value, that scale value to 0.5. Otherwise, it's 2 if it's on expand, or just default of 1. And then we're doing the same lerp, linear interpolation, to kind of get a lagged value, animated value of that, to kind of expand it in and out. So that's a nice little way to accomplish like a very specific hover effect, because this cursor is really a completely separate DOM element. Like trying to target hover events and things like that is just a bit wild, and trying to add like hover listeners to everything to do that isn't necessarily a great approach either. So just looking at like what the cursor is over can be a nice way to handle that. Yeah, I think that's the bulk of it there.
Yeah.
Pretty nice little animation.
I made it faster, by the way.
You did.
like more performance.
Oh, nice.
That was my fault.
What'd you
do? Turns out then when you animate an element that spans the entire viewport and you transform it, that's going to take a lot of resources. So maybe don't do that. But that's what I did.
Okay, the background animation you were working on.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Well, cool. Yeah, that's how to do a custom cursor with some element interaction. I would recommend trying this out, and working with these CSS variables and linear interpolation. There's just so much fun stuff you can do. So yeah, will you close us out, David?
Sure thing. So you can watch the full process of creating this animation for a deeper dive into each technique on the full live stream links right below. Leave us a comment if you have any questions.
Our show is supported by our sponsors, CodePen at codepen.io, CSS Tricks at css-tricks.com, Stately at stately.ai, and viewers like you. You can pledge at patreon.com/keyframers and subscribe to our channel for more great content. Links are available below. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, adios, amigos.
Adios.